Hello. How is everybody doing in our state of the market? Hello, hello. What are we doing today? So what's going on with the market today? Is it moving? Is it doing anything? So today what I'm going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about volatility products. It's going to help you for my webinar this evening at 8 o'clock. How the vol products melt and how do they pop? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over what is volatility products, how the vol products move, melt mode or action mode. Do they move in zones? And then how can you trade these? Obviously, showing up at 8 o'clock tonight to learn how to trade them would be a great idea. There's a link there to register at the top. So the first thing I want to do is describe really what a vol product is. What they do is they just buy VIX futures. Or they sell VIX futures. Now, why were they invented? Why were the vol products invented? Because most people can't trade futures, VIX futures, in their retirement account. So the grandees decided to come up with products that you could put in your retirement account if you wanted. So VXX, right? UVXY, UVIX, SVIX. You can trade VIX in a retirement account. Okay. These are basically, I would say, the most liquid SVXY. Right. Those are basically your 6 vol products. I think the most liquid, easiest to trade, most predictable. So they buy VIX futures and they sell VIX futures. So I'm just going to use VXX as an example. So what happens is VXX as a product buys or owns the 2 near-term serial VIX futures. Now there's a problem most of the time with that. There's a problem most of the time with that. I'll show you what that problem is. Now, here's another thing. And well, this is a little like kind of freebie thing today, but what's the problem with the market going up a little and VIX going up a little? So we've had a couple of classes this week. Do you find that is odd? So basically, traders are saying volatility got low and it ain't going any lower for now. So when I look at VXX, it's up 45 cents today. What it does is it owns it owns this future and it owns this future. So this product VXX owns the May future and the June future. And right now it owns it on a ratio. And I will give you that ratio forthwith here. And we're going to put it on our little sheet. So you'll get a nice handy PDF of this sent to you after we're done. But I'm going to use my, I'm going to use this as an example here. There we go. So right now, how this works is VXX owns the May. 16% of the value of VXX is because it owns that future. 83.33% of VXX is now the June future. So that is the first future. That is the second future. So that's the May, that's the June. And every day they sell a little of the May and they buy the June. They essentially put on a spread. All the people that are running the VXX products, I think that's still at Barclays, they just roll it every day. Roll a little bit. So by expiration next week on Wednesday, VXX will be 100% June. So your note here, so serial expiration is just the ordinary expiration every month. It's not the weekly. That also has a big determining factor in the liquidity. So UVX acts the same way, but it is 1.5 times. UVIX is 2 times. SVIX is -1. SVXY is -0.5. They all own or are short the same things. So you could think of it like this. VXX is buying a spread and SVIX is selling it. Like the liquidity is all right there. UVXY buys a spread, SVXY sells it. Now the problem is, I want you guys to look at this for a second. How do most futures, or I'm going to say, let's say all futures operate? What's the one thing that these futures have to do on expiration? They have to expire. The futures, no, they don't go to zero. They expire to the cash price. Okay. So when we're saying how the vol products move, right? Now, if you think about it this way, futures expire to the cash price. Expire and assign if a sign is in place. So there's no early assignment with VIX. This is what you call European exercise. So they only are going to expire on what day? Okay. They're just going to expire and settle on the cash date. There's no flim-flamming. Okay. And that's Wednesday morning. Now, if you own something and you know the underlying price is here, but you own this thing and this thing, what's likely happening every day? Let's see here. Mike, decay. These things melt. So the ice cube melting in the sun is just what? Is you own It's kind of like, have you ever bought options? Some of you, right? I'm going to buy some options. All of a sudden, okay, they melt every day that goes by. This is what I call a gravity direction. The direction of gravity is what? Future to cash. Okay. What we're going to call volatility gravity. That's the way they work. That's the way they work. And I'll take the last 5 minutes at the end for questions. So when you look at something like this, what you get is some sort of predictable activity. So you get a what we call a melt mode most of the time historically. Now, how do you know that? Well, let's take a look. So if I look at VXX as a volatility product, right, it owns these VIX futures. Hopefully you've seen all the state of the market videos we've been doing here. And I look at this over the last 2 years. What does that look like? I'm an investor in VXX at 150. And then I lost most of my money. Had a couple of pops here recently. And then what happened? So actually, this last 6 months has been unique in the history of VXX. Why is that? Why is the history in VXX right now unique? Or any of the long vol products? Because the basically the VIX futures stopped decaying. We spent a long time in zone 4, but we never spent enough time in zone 1. So what's happening is VIX keeps moving up, keeps pulling the futures up. So every time VXX goes down, it goes back up again. I was going. So what has happened over, let's say, I'm going to say since August, is the market has not been able to get to a lower volatility. Why is that? It could be the guy in the White House. It could be the budget deficit. It could be anything. All I'm saying is this is a historical, I'll just give you an idea here. Okay. It is not, this 5 years is very hard because you're starting at 2,500 here. But this, the fact that over the last 6 months, we have basically not made a new low. VXX generally makes a new low every quarter at some point. Yeah, or it could be all a combination of all of those factors, right? So understanding how it moves is important. Most of the time it's melting. However, just recently, and let's go the last 3 months, that doesn't look like melting, right? Certainly moving, right? When it's basically doubled in price. And now it's, and I'd say the last few days though, right? So what's happening here the last couple of days? Even with the market moving up yesterday, up today, if VXX is going up, what is happening with the VIX futures if you think about it? If VXX is rising, what's happening with the VIX futures? What has to be happening? So something like VXX is going up. It owns futures. That means the vol futures have to be rising, which always makes the back of my head, I basically closed most of the vol puts I had in like weekly profit cycles, trading desk, my pro service, right? Because what should be happening if you go under this rubric, right? Right. If you could do this, right? What should be happening? These futures should be melting down to the cash instead of going up. So what I'm saying is that's a little odd behavior. It does not give me the warm and fuzzies for SPX and SPY continuing the rally. Is everybody clear on why that is? Generally, if volatility futures are going up, the market is expecting SPY, SPX to go down. Is everybody clear on that? So you have you've got your melt mode, and then you put on a new hat and you have action mode. Action mode basically is volatility, and VIX is now starting to move up. So you have what I would call like two modes here. One is the futures melting toward the VIX cash, and mode 2 is when VIX, the actual VIX index is moving around all over the place. So action mode, okay, action mode okay. So we've got what is a vol product? They own the futures. How the vol products move, we have a melt mode and we have action mode. Action mode is VIX moving. Melt mode that's our ice cube in the sun. How can you trade it? Or actually here, let's do here. How do they move? Do they move in zones? So the idea for the volatility products is they're very similar because they own VIX futures. They're going to move in a relatively similar way. However, most of the time, right? So VXX and the vol products cannot go up forever. There's always going to be a top because they own futures and they're constantly rolling. Is it accurate to talk about melt mode as decay? Yes, Sniper Baker, it is. So the idea is your VXX can't, and vol products, they cannot go up forever, and they keep going down and splitting. So basically, so you can have a short-term high, but continue to approach zero. So they just keep going lower and lower and lower. And how they usually deal with it is they do the reverse split. So what will happen is they can make a high, then you have some sort of terminal move. And so from a zone point of view, they don't exactly move in zones, because there's basically no bottom. So they can just keep going and going and going, which makes them fun to trade when volatility is dropping, because they really can just sink. Right? And VXX moves, or we'll call vol product moves, right, are moving at the same percentage as your VIX futures. So if the VIX futures move down $2, you're like, $2, who cares about that? But if the future's 20, that's 10%. VXX is down 10%, that's $5. It's down 20%, it's $10. Right? So you have, right, larger, more tradable moves. Makes it kind of fun to trade them. When vol's going down, they get smoked. Or when those futures are up 10, 20%, 30%, right? You get giant moves, 30, 40, $50 in VXX. You look at a product like UVIX, let's go to the last 6 months here. You know, the thing was sitting here around 20 something bucks, goes to 110. Boom. Again, notice over the last 6 months has not been able to make new lows. Again, I think it's again combination of factors, White House, budget problems, trade issues, people worrying about the global recession, blah, 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 all that stuff. Right? Market at an all-time high. Is it overvalued? All these things. So I think if the vol products actually break to new lows, I think that would be very bullish for the market in general. Because it's basically they're getting out of a cycle that they've been in. Probably since July. If I look for the last year here, basically that's our cycle we have not been able to get out of. So what this gives you an idea is how they move. And again, they don't really move in zones, even though VIX moves in zones, because they can hold on to those futures and they can just melt and melt and melt. They can kind of get around the VIX zones because they keep rolling to a new, right? They keep rolling to a new future. Now, here, before I answer some questions, how can you trade it? So the easiest way, we'll describe that tonight. We will describe how to trade it tonight at 8 p.m. For you now, though, the first thing you have to do is have to decide which mode you want to trade. So do I trade the melt mode? Do I trade which one, right? Now, what I will say is, as you get a little smarter, you use the melt to trade the action. And that's what we'll be describing this evening. There'll be a little melt, give you the idea of how to do that. Right? Because you never know when volatility is going to change. So if I sum it up a little bit, generally the vol products are going to move like what? Ice cubes in the sun. A vol product owns futures, which is generally a decaying asset, which settles, but they own them in blocks, meaning at expiration, they own 100% of 1 month, and then they spend the next month selling what they own and buying the next one. That creates a unique trading pattern. These are the most, I would say, predictable, tradable of all products that there are. You have to decide or understand there's a melting mode and there's an action mode. Meaning, are you trading the melt, that those futures are just going to decay, or you're trading the action where VIX is actually moving? Do they move in the zones that I've described? Do they move in the zones that I've described? The answer generally is no. There is a terminal top for the vol products because the VIX futures only go up for so long. And then they can keep going down for a very, very long time. So from that point of view, because they split, they really don't trade in a zone. The vol products don't trade in a zone. That is everything but VIX, obviously. VIX trades in the zone. How can we trade it? You got to decide what to trade. Am I going to trade the melt mode or the action mode? How do you measure the melt and how predictable is it? You're going to learn that, Sniper Baker. By the way, you should know that already by being in pro. Or maybe I haven't covered it yet. But the melt is actually a number that you can measure. What we call daily decay. So right now, what we'll call roll yield. VXX is decaying at about $1 per week. SVIX is decaying upward about 50 cents a week. SVX is a nickel a day, 25 cents a week. UVXY is decaying downward at 60 cents a week, and UVIX is about $1 a week. The inverse products take a long time to get where they came from. So what you do is you trade the roll yield. You trade the roll yield. You learn to trade the roll yield, and that makes life easier. Me, not so smart. Should I keep my VIX 18 puts in place? Are they for May? It might be touchy. We could get to 17 probably, but right now the market doesn't want to go any lower, rawhide. So it's May 28. You got a shot. You need to see things, but you need to see a lower volatility for sure. The fact that we're kind of sitting here right now, I think it's normal just because the rally has been so steep. This is not what's happening in the last couple of days because we're just up so much, so hard, is not a surprise. So the roll yield is buying SVIX and buying UVIX a good long-term hedge. So I would say just doing the two together, WA, no, it is not. SVIX will underperform. You won't get enough performance out of SVIX to pay for the UVIX over the long term. Andrew says, this situation unique? I think it's not unique that volatility doesn't come down because stuff is going on. Ever since the Fed started getting active in with monetary policy in the last since 2008, we've had these kind of periods of longer vol. Yeah, we do have PCI coming out, and that's something, but the CPI kind of gave us the look. I've rolled my VIX put 24 out to September. So remember, Blue Dog, when you trade VIX, that's a VIX. Your September contract is only trading, right, what's going on in September. So you don't have a lot of performance. You're going to be waiting a while. If you're trading September VIX, you're trading the September contract. All right, it's 10:30. Show up tonight, 8 o'clock. Start to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. Hannah and I will be explaining it. James H. Still in SVIX from months ago, lost about half. It will take us probably the rest of the year to get to 35, James H. I still have it. I've traded some puts around it, but still not, hasn't been the best trade. What is VIXMO on the chart? VIXMO on the chart is the old VIX calculation. These notes will be available. We'll put them in a PDF and send them out to you. All right, it's 10:30 with the recording. See you later. You guys have an excellent day. Bye-bye.